Hi there, we are back with another Rewind. This time we are talking about one of the most popular and most controversial movies that we saw last year.
2025.
Yes, we are going to be talking about K-Pop Demon Hunters. So Kennedy, you reviewed this movie.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and just give folks a little bit of an idea about what this movie is actually about.
Yeah, I will say this was one of the harder movies that I had to do the plot summary for.
Oh my goodness, there's a lot going on.
But the basic plot is that you have these three girls, Korean singers, who by day are a band and they become a really famous band. This iteration of them is called Huntrix. And by night, they slay demons. And it's not always by night, it's just whenever.
Just whenever demons show up, because demons show up quite a bit, actually.
Yeah. And so they go around, people don't know that they do this side hustle.
Right. It's sort of like their secret job. They're sort of like Batman.
Pretty much, actually, yeah. The reason why they have to be these singers is because it makes something called the honmoon, which is this essentially a protective barrier that divides essentially the underworld from our world. These demons like to claw up through that and get into our world. And so when they do, then they just stab them. They're hoping that eventually by singing, what happens is they kind of empower their fans through their songs.
Yeah.
And that makes the barrier even stronger. Now they're on the way to making this barrier permanent. And so the underworld is starting to stress a little.
Yeah.
This one demon named Jinu, he says, well, how about we try something different? Me and a few of the guys, we're going to go up as a rival K-pop band named the Saja Boys. And what we're going to do, instead of just going to fight them with our claws, we're going to pose as these attractive men who can sway the audiences away from Huntrix and towards them, thus making the honmoon decrease in its strength.
Yeah.
And allowing the infiltration to be complete.
It's like the popularity contest of the soul.
Exactly.
You know.
And as this is all going on, as I said, it was a hard thing to write. As all of this is going on, the main singer, the main character really, Rumi, she's been hiding this secret that ever since her youth, she's been hiding. Only one other person knows about it. She has these markings, and these markings, they always signify that a person has a demon lineage. And she's been hiding that from her fellow hunters and hiding that from the world in the hopes that one day when they finally get this honmoon 100% secure, they'll go away.
Everything will be fine.
Everything will be okay.
Yeah. It's interesting. The only person who knows about it is her adoptive mother, essentially, and her mom tells her to keep all these marks a secret.
Yep.
Don't show anybody because that would be
Conceal,
bad.
don't feel, don't let them know, as a famous Disney princess once said.
Conceal, don't feel, put on a show.
Yeah, so clearly, when we're talking about this movie, this does not have, a lot of movies that we talk about on the Rewind, they have some deep Christian underpinnings.
Yep.
This is not, at least explicitly Christian.
No.
This, when you're looking at the world that we're looking at, this clearly takes its cues from Eastern religion. It takes it from Korean mythology, essentially, right?
Well, and that's what the director had mentioned. She had said that she had looked at Korea's origins in religion, which was more paganism. And so there are some shamanistic elements in the movie. There are some, and even the demons are not Christian-style demons. The demons are more lost souls who have essentially been captured and turned into these evil creatures, and nature spirits, that kind of thing. Not so much fallen angels who are just objectively, completely and absolutely evil.
Yeah. If and when you dive into this movie, you have a lot to sort of wade through, right? And let's be clear, a lot of people have dived into this movie. Dovened. So it's been watched, Netflix estimates that it's been watched by 500 million people Well, or at least watched 500 million times.
By one guy.
By one guy. And you can tell that it is a very nicely crafted movie, right? It has really catchy music that we could sing right at this very moment if we so desired, but we're not going to. You know that there's a lot of kids, a lot of teens who are watching this. So there are definitely some elements that you have to walk through. We've heard from a lot of our readers, both pros and cons, right? And you can see that there would be some reticence, I guess, about letting a show like this into your home.
Yeah, the Christian divide on it, when we first posted it, I didn't think it would be as popular.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think anyone did.
No. It came out of nowhere, really.
But it got really popular, and so it got a lot of divisive views on that. Now, you had one side, and I thought, kind of impressively, it was split about 50-50.
At least what we heard, yeah.
But yeah, from what we saw. And so you had one side, and this is specifically of the Christian audience. So you had one side who said that this movie was not Christian, it was anti-biblical. And you had the other side who said, no, we see biblical themes in here. Now, I was on that side when I wrote the review. I've done a lot more research, and I would still say I'm on that side, but I can understand how people can get to the other.
Yeah.
So I can summarize those real quick. I think largely of the arguments, it comes down to a difference in interpretation on what the movie is trying to convey.
Yeah.
For those who end up against the movie, I saw a general theme of people thinking that the movie was talking towards a sense of justification. So this idea in the movie, you have Rumi with her markings, and she has to kill these demons, and at the end of the movie she comes to a point where she has to reveal those markings, and she reveals them to the light, and a lot of people kind of took a lot of those scenes as this kind of talking about how you overcome your demons. Well, only Christ helps you overcome your demons. There's no other salvation other than in Christ. And so this movie is talking about a weird sense of justification that is unbiblical. Now, if you take that view, I would completely agree with you that this is an unbiblical movie.
It's a fair interpretation.
Yeah. I mean, I can see how someone would come to that conclusion. But I think the dialogue is nuanced enough that it's also easy to come to the other conclusion, which is where I fell, and I still do fall. I saw it more as the movie saying that the only way to overcome your sin and shame is to bring it to the light.
Right.
Now, that doesn't justify you.
Right.
But I didn't see it as a movie about justification, but as a movie about how you overcome the sin that brings you down.
Yeah.
Now, that is ultimately through Christ, but I was viewing it more as in the Christian life.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I was relating to it from my own walk. I truly believe I'm saved through Christ, but I still, as I go through life, I still sin occasionally, and I have to deal with that. And there are some times when Satan whispers in your ear and he says, you know what? You sinned, you're not good enough.
Right.
And
right. And
you'll
that's what
never
the
be
demons
loved.
do during the entire movie. It's all about that shame, all about that unworthiness, right?
And so is this idea of, does my sin define who I am?
Yeah.
And I think it really depends on whether you're interpreting that from a perspective of pre or post conversion, which I think is fair to do in either case.
Yeah.
But I think when we deal with a movie like this, we have to come to the perspective of the movie and what its intent is.
Yeah.
Which seemed to be, at least the couple times that I watched it, seemed to be about a general view of shame.
Right.
Right, because this isn't an exclusively Christian
No.
thing to struggle with. Like I think we all struggle with that idea of, I have done something that is wrong or evil, and I don't know if people are going to love me anymore.
Yeah.
Now, we take that to its full conclusion in the love of God.
Yeah.
And how God tells us that we're never going to be forsaken for the things we have done.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a general principle that I think everyone can relate to in that of, I've done something wrong and I still want to be loved, but I don't know if I can be because there are demons whispering in my ear that tell me that I'll never be loved ever again.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's interesting because as this movie sort of grew in its popularity, and you kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Yeah, you should probably watch this." And you know, for the first bit of the movie, I thought, I don't quite get what the deal is.
Yeah.
You talk a little bit about how we need to sort of take the movie on its own terms, and I totally agree with that. We also often take what our own personal story
Yeah.
into these movies, right? And as the movie went along, it really resonated with me personally, right? Because, and I think that part of it is because of the idea of that sin and shame and hiding. I think one of the things, if I could make just sort of probably an unfair blanket accusation on one of the things that we Christians don't do very well, I don't think that we are often as honest with ourselves and our problems as we could be, right? When you go to church, you are in the midst of all these people who are smiling. We sing these beautiful worship songs that glorify God, and all that is wonderful. But sometimes I think, at least in my own experience, one of the places where I feel the least transparent is within the confines of a church. And for me, that's one of the reasons why Rumi's story resonated with me so strongly, because the idea of presenting yourself to be sort of better than you are, this more perfect version, that struck me. I've been pretty honest with the I deal with depression, right?
Yeah.
And so when you talk about sort of these whispers, these demon whispers in your ear, that you are unworthy, that you don't deserve love, those are powerful messages within the context of this.
Yeah.
And it really is, I've sort of framed it in my own walk as truly Satan whispering to you, right? It tries to make you feel like you are unworthy and you can never be worthy. And the fact that the movie pushed so hard against that and encouraged us to share openly, that was a really powerful message for me.
No, I completely agree. And that's why I ended up liking the movie more than I disliked it. Not because it had this perfect story of, you know, it didn't have a gospel message in it, but it dealt with that Christian idea of struggling with the sin. You know, it really resonated to me. I recalled like Paul in Scripture talking about like, I've done these horrible things. I'm the worst of all sinners, you know, and yet I continue because I am in Christ and I am still loved. These things have not ruined me totally. Which is, I feel that ruin is something that we tend to gravitate to, is say, we're gone. This is all we are. And I think that's what the movie does really well at the very climax of the film, with a controversial song, Your Idol, which I don't see why it's controversial, at least in the context of the film. Because it's very obvious that it's being sung by the bad guys, and it's a bad thing, what they're saying. You know, they're putting on this concert, they've got all these people, and they're saying, you've given me your heart, now I'm here for your soul. You know, these are bad things that they're saying.
These are bad things.
You see this manipulation of them saying, you're not enough, therefore come to me, and I can make you enough, but what they're really doing is they're going to destroy you. And that's, like I said, that's a struggle. That I think everyone, not even just Christians, but everyone deals with. But because that's also a Christian issue, we see that throughout the film.
You know, it's interesting because that particular song, it was written by somebody who has a Christian background, and those
you have to remember
ideas.
that Korea's biggest religion is Christianity.
Exactly. So you do have some Christian influence filtering into this very paganistic Christian or Korean story, right? And I was reading this really fascinating story about the person who wrote that song. Said, that's what I remembered. Idols are not good things. And yet in our culture, and especially almost within this movie, you know, you have this other sense of idleness. And so the blending of it really did have, it had some interesting theological, even Christian undertones. That idea that these people, they are both pop idols. They want to be your real idols. They want to be your false gods, and they suck you into destruction.
Yeah, and I think that's something we see Rumi dealing with throughout the movie. They have that one song, Takedown,
It's a takedown. I'ma take you out. You'll break down like what?
where they're just writing all these things of like, I think they literally say in the lyrics, "You're guilty as sin. You're nothing. We're gonna destroy you because there's nothing good about you."
Yeah.
And that song later comes up as they're fighting like on the subway against all the Gollum-looking demons, and Rumi kind of falters.
Yeah.
Because she's thinking, well, hold on, I'm of the same lineage. So do these apply to me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you see that over and over and over again. If you're looking at it from a Christian worldview, Rumi's scenario is very reminiscent of original sin.
Absolutely.
She has this.
Absolutely.
She has this literal sin stain on her that she inherited from her parents, and is she ever going to be enough? Now, obviously, like I said, it's a movie. Not everything lines up perfectly.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I think when you deal with a movie like this, you have to think through some of the stuff that we deal with other movies. When you send me begrudgingly to a horror movie,
I always feel bad about that.
I dislike horror movies as a general rule. But what I will say that they do rather well is they handle supernatural evil very well. In the sense that they're like, no, these are evil. You don't want to mess with this.
Right.
It's like, yeah, it's a pretty Christian thing to say.
Right.
Even though that these movies are definitively not Christian, it's like, no, well, that's still a Christian truth, is that you don't mess with the supernatural.
Yeah. This obviously goes a little bit more broad than K-pop Demon Hunters, but I think it's one of the joys and tricks of our job, right? Is we are always dealing with imperfect media. We are always dealing with these secular movies, and even Christian movies. They're not perfect. You're gonna have bad in every movie that you see, but you're going to be able to find some good in a lot of them too, if you're able to sort of dig into that a little bit deeper, because I think that the messages, you were talking a little bit about how a lot of these messages don't necessarily, they're not exclusive to, they're not exclusive to Christians, but that's because I think we're all made by God, right? We all have the same yearnings, the same hunger for love, for truth, for acceptance. We all hunger for God, even if we're not even aware of it. And so, of course, that's going to filter into some of our stories, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the root of the movie, and in most movies, honestly, is this understanding that things are wrong, and that's what Rumi's dealing with. Is she's understanding, I've done wrong.
Yeah.
Can I be redeemed? There's this line at the end in the like triumphant song. They say, I think we broke into 1,000,000 pieces and we can't go back, but now we're seeing all the beauty in the broken glass. And I saw it as, these things are bad and they happened, but they don't define, they don't make us no longer worthy of love.
Right.
God can redeem even broken glass.
Man, it's so cool.
I enjoyed that message.
Yeah.
I was worried that, like most secular media does, that it would go the route of, well, and then you just accept yourself for who you are, and that's how you find salvation.
Right. Right.
And I saw some of those thrown against the movie. I disagreed with those because as they're singing the song, they're still killing demons. So like,
they're not accepting the demons.
if there was an acceptance of Rumi being like, well, this is just part of who I am,
right,
she wouldn't be killing all the other ones. She'd be like, well, maybe they're misunderstood too.
Yeah,
but
it wasn't that.
But it wasn't that. It was, so I think you have to interpret it in a different way. And I think the only way to interpret it is, these are bad things that have happened in my life, or this is something that I'm dealing with, but the only way to deal with it is to bring it to the light.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad you brought up the broken glass,
Yeah.
the million pieces, because one of the things as I was watching the movie, Rumi, she has these patterns on her. We've mentioned them before. The thing that it reminded me of, especially later on and as those patterns become more pronounced, there is a Japanese art form called kintsugi,
Yeah.
which is all about broken pottery, right? It's taking, pottery is broken. They piece it together not to make it look perfect, but to show off the cracks, to show the breaks. It's often gilded in gold and all this kind of stuff. It looks really cool.
Yeah.
But the philosophy of that, the metaphor of that has always been so powerful to me, because I think about how we're all so broken, right? And when you look at Rumi's patterns and you see those patterns, it makes her look broken. It makes her look like a piece of this kintsugi pottery. And that's what we're all living with, right? We're all living with these broken pieces of ourselves that God has put back together, that make us a unified whole, that makes us, able to worship Him.
That idea of revealing that you are broken, not ignoring it, is very present in the movie. It's reminiscent of the verse in 1 John. If we say we have no sin, then we are liars, right? At the end of the movie, Rumi finally chooses to go to the spa, whatever you call it over there.
The bathhouse.
Bathhouse, which she had been previously avoiding
because she couldn't show her.
Because going to the bathhouse would require her to show off her shoulders, which have the markings on them.
Right.
She finally goes, and if you see, she still has the markings. So it's not saying like, oh, this thing has healed her, but it is showing that she's accepted that these bad things have occurred and she has brought them to the light. I saw it less about justification and more about confession.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, the Bible tells us over and over again that that's what we're supposed to be doing as fellow Christians, is sharing one another's burdens, confessing our weaknesses, because we need each other to follow God the way we should. Yeah. We need that support. And I guess that's what I came away with the movie, that powerful message of, okay, I'm broken. I'm not perfect, but I've got my friends to help me through. I'm trying to move forward in a better way. Can stories like this be a springboard to a greater truth, a greater understanding? I think that sometimes they can be.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're going into KPop Demon Hunters to get a lesson in theology,
It's not the movie.
It's not the movie. It's and it's a bit silly to do so. But I think when you look at the deeper points that it's making, you can connect those.
Yep.
What are they trying to convey with this depiction? Is it that, hey, you can go out and kill your own demons? Or is it that we've historically always said, you need to fight your demons as a phrase that means the sin and shame that's within you. You need to deal with that.
You need to deal with it. And the first step in that is confessing.
Yeah.
Right. So, man, this has been a great conversation, Kennedy. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you like what you've heard, if you like what we've had to say, like, comment, share, subscribe. And if you disagree with what we have to say, let us know. There's a whole comment section right down below that you can let us know, because, we're big boys. Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us, and be sure to join us the next time when we will have an equally provocative conversation, I am sure. In the meantime, see you later.
I've told Paul historically that I hate being in front of the camera. So.